to try to, be like that. And you say, but you're being a copycat. Well, the way I am right now, I'm just a yo-yo. I want to stop that. I want to be able to eke out of life what life has to offer. And as a yo-yo, I can't. And these people seem to be together. How do they react to the world? Not like a pond, like an ocean. This is very nice. Very nice, beautiful verse, isn't it? Any comments, any questions, please? Is it clear? Is there any? Yeah. Okay, so continue on, please, Ravi.
For the ocean, the small waves are its smiles, and the huge breakers are its roaring laughter. If it is not roaring with laughter or smiling, is the ocean gone? No, it is tranquil in its fullness. Therefore, it is the fullness that is laughing, the fullness already being there. It can be a laughing fullness, a smiling fullness, or a tranquil fullness. The other person mentioned in this verse, the Kamakami, is one who has desires. This is not to say that he or she has a desire for desires. No one wants to have a desire for desires, but this person definitely has desires for desirable objects. Into this person's mind also sense objects enter. The world enters. When the desirable enters, there is elation, and when the undesirable enters, there is depression. In this way, the emotions of the persons go up and down like a yo-yo.
Okay. Comments here, questions, please. The word kamakami could be interpreted as what? Kamakami.
As otherwise.
Otherwise, that's correct. And not that he wants to have desires. No, he doesn't have desire for desires.
Right.
Okay, this is the point. No one wants to have desires. Is that right?
Right.
Is that right? Now, who wants you to have desires? Who wants you to have desires? Only the ones that have something to sell. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, and what is the purpose of a desire? What is the desire? What is the end of the desire? What is the objective of the desire?
To be happy.
To be happy and complete.
Okay, and what happens when it happens incomplete? What happens to the desire?
Well, it is temporary.
Goes away.
Huh?
It is a temporary kind of.
Desire. What happens to the desire when you have? What happens?
Desire goes away.
It's gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so every desire has only one purpose: to eliminate itself. Nobody wants to have desires. There is no desire for desires. But think about it. Whenever you have a desire and the mind is agitated, the desire has only one objective, one purpose. It doesn't want the thing itself. It doesn't want the object itself to go or to come back. All it wants is to, when it does come back or go, so the desire will disappear.
So the desire of the purpose of the desire to be eliminated, or
The desire has only the desire to get rid of itself. Is that right?
Yeah.
Doesn't he just want to be? I mean, the desire is not for the thing.
Me.
No, the desire is to find,
get rid of
is to just get rid of it.
Get rid of the desire
To
itself.
itself, that's correct. So there will be no desire. So what we want ultimately, listen please, what we want ultimately is to be free from desires.
Yeah.
And are we how do you call this, successful at it? Are we successful at that? Do we succeed?
No, the other desire comes, right?
That's right, because so we fulfill all these desires
New ones come.
and new ones come.
Comes, right, yeah. One
And where are they coming from? Where do the desires come from?
because we feel we are not complete.
That's right, they're from a deep sense of want,
Emptiness.
isn't it? From a deep sense of want, emptiness.
Want, yeah.
I'm talking about binding desires, okay?
Yeah.
If I get this, then I'll be okay. Of course, if I don't have a roof on my house, and you say, shouldn't I have a desire for a house? Oh, you should have this. It's raining inside.
Yep.
Oh, now you have desire. Wait a minute. It's a privilege to have desires in that respect. But in the other respect, if the desires are there, so that I can find completeness in myself, that means the desire is coming from a sense of emptiness. It is a binding desire. But what about the roof of my house? Okay, I need to put a roof. Why? My family is getting wet. I'm getting wet. We're gonna get sick. It's not right. We should have a roof on our house. So you should actually then fulfill that desire like that. But that's a non-binding desire. But let's just say, for example, that I'm gonna put a roof on my house. Okay, again to the roof. I don't know why I go to the roof. And I'm gonna put so that neighbors can see how good I am. And then I look at the neighbor's face. I try to make sure I see the neighbor when he comes in. I know what time he comes out. And then he's like, "What are you doing?" "I'll put a roof on my house." And it's costing me $50,000. Oh my God! You know how it is.
But then sometimes people don't do that and then keep money in the bank. Then also we say the person
That's
is stingy.
another desire.
That's another desire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my sister-in-law. No, somebody was saying yesterday, a couple of days ago. My sister-in-law, or somebody was. I don't know who it was. Aurelia. He was saying about, and that about people that accumulate gold. It was, this is a fact. Okay, this is a family. They had these gold coins from before the revolution, all gold, and it wasn't even round. It was a square gold coins in Mexico. And the guy used to have a whole lot of gold, and they were miserable. They wouldn't buy anything. And then all they did with the gold, look at it every once in a while, and then take it out into the sun.
Oh, man. Make it shine, huh?
So they make these bucketfuls of gold to make so that it doesn't become stale or something, and then bring it in. That was their thing, and they're miserable. They didn't have anything. There's this person here, again, it's a true story. This person that just died last week. I'm sorry. Anyway, this person, he made millions and millions of dollars. He came with nothing. And he was hard worker and all that. He used to work in the fields, and then eventually, somebody gave him a piece of land, and he developed, and he bought another one. To make a long story short, he had a lot of properties, and then that. This lady's mother, who was very poor, went to visit them. And he saw the rag that's a very thin rag, putting himself at night to cover himself, shivering and cold in his big mansion. And this lady, which is poor, who couldn't afford it, she went ahead and bought in terms, a good blanket to take it to his, that was a cousin, I think it is. Now, that is something else, okay? That's misery. Misery has nothing to do with money.
As one of the chapters is Kripana.
Agripana.
Yeah.
So why is it? Because of the fear, letting go, desire
Yeah,
for
it is also the desire
all this
holding
stuff.
it.
It's a desire is fear. Fear and desire are synonymous. Anger and desire are synonymous. In other words, they just desire disguised. When there's fear, it's a desire disguised. Fear of what? Well, insecurity. If they take away from me, I'm less. If they don't give me, I'm less. I want to become more, so give me. And I'll give little as possible. Because if I give, then I become less. Which means what? There's a misery. Kripana here. That's the whole idea. So that brings a yo-yo. Now, let's suppose, for example, somebody says, you know what? You're getting this service, and then they say, now this association, we're getting this thing. Now it's going to cost you an extra $100 a year in dues, let's just say. Wait a minute, let me show you." And so people become upset. And he says, "What is $100 a year? I just divided it so much. But still, the principle, and this and that, and so on. For a few bucks, we are so uptight." It's called, in Mexico, we call tight. Yes.
When you say a few $100 a year,
Mm-hmm.
this happened of all the affluent places in Moraga. When the school board did not have enough money, they decided through the town hall meeting and everything that the property taxes will be raised by $2 a year. $2 a year. And everybody turned it down. They turned it down. They said, "Hey, our kids are gone. Our kids are not attending the school. Why should we give $2? $2."
And this is a very affluent area.
Yeah.
It's one of the most affluent areas here.
Yes.
So that's called misery. Okay?
This just happened about 4 or 5 years back. I was flabbergasted.
Yeah. Well, that can happen. So let's look at the world. Yes, we can see examples of that. We got resources, personal resources. We got talents, we got energy, we have money, we have knowledge, we have all these things. If something in me is holding back, and if I have any opportunity to release some of the resources, life resources, whatever, and it hurts me, time-wise and all that stuff, if it hurts me, they'll put a value, it means that in me there's a deep desire, meaning what there's an emptiness, because remember we said desire comes from emptiness, that I need to check out. It's not to feel bad, but I can say, look at my mind. I am Brahman. I am the whole. There's nothing missing in me. And my mind is, what do you call that? Resisting. It's just like that. And I have to look at it and say, why? Let me make an exercise. My doctor told me the other day. Because I told him I had this, I said that, I was getting dizzy. Dizzy, because of my, and then he says, "Okay, I'm going to give you a piece of paper." He says, in the paper is some instructions, how to get rid of exercises, how to get rid of your dizziness. He says, become conscious of what makes you dizzy. Now, become conscious of what makes you uptight. Uptight like this, or uptight like this, we call it, okay? You have to become conscious of it. Yeah? Well, I know it's not. See what triggers it. What movement of the head or the eyes or what triggers it. I say, okay, and then do it on purpose. Provoke it. Do it on purpose. Provoke it. Bring it about. But first you have to become conscious of what does it. And you know what? You start doing it enough. And you actually go and do the thing that normally will make you tight in terms of the eyes. Or in terms of desire, in terms of fear, in terms of greediness, and then start looking at that and look at it and now do exactly the opposite. Look at it. In other words, try to provoke it. And before you know it, even though it seems to be contrary, because normally we tend to not do that anymore. Isn't it?
But don't you think it is stupid? It's a necessity. You have to do it whether you do it or tomorrow.
No, but if you want to get rid of the dizziness, then, or whatever, it makes you uptight, then provoke it. And go there. And eventually the mind will just find itself, it will relax. And eventually, the dizziness will go away. The brain will adjust to that. Now, here, desire, once I understand what desire is, and desire makes me angry. Because of desire, I get sad. Because of desire, I become apprehensive. All these things. Look at it. Don't turn your back to it. Be honest. Swamiji used to say, this Vedanta is not for wimps. Wimps meaning people that are cowardly about it. Be courageous about it and look at it. If somebody points it out, maybe the person is right. Somebody insinuates, maybe the person is got something there. So look at it. Not to justify it, to see, and now look at the opposite. And start, breaking down little by little. Nobody else can do it for you. Somebody else brings about something like this, becomes offensive. You do it to yourself, it becomes hurtful. But pretty little the person is just growing. Why? Because there's a challenge there. The karma kami is not like that because he wants to be. It is what? Responding to a sense of emptiness. We don't want to create desires. We don't have desires for desires. But then they come because of a sense of emptiness. And then assert the fullness. And then look at the thing, which is a symptom of a feeling of emptiness, and see what a lie it is. This is just ways to look at it. We need to do that. Why? If we're committed to truth. Truth is not something philosophical necessarily. Truth, is not just from the standpoint of the ultimate reality. Truth is the truth of how my mind reacts to things. So, lead me from the apparent to the real means here I am, building an ivory tower upon a foundation made of sand.
It's going to fall off.
And it will never stand. I need to get foundations, and the foundations are means to meet my reality the way it is. Because this kamya karmi needs to disappear. And the only way it can disappear is by bringing the mind to it and just calling things for what they are. And then, if that makes you happy, then don't even seek for the truth, just stay like that. If that makes me unhappy, say, wait a minute, I don't want to be like that. I'm dependent upon this thing. You look at me, it bugs the heck out of me even to consider. Doing the right thing. And what is the right thing? What I wish others did to me. Isn't that the right thing? The right thing, the dharma, is what I wish others did to me. Is that right? If I have employees and I have a business, right, then my employees are giving me something, isn't it? Now, why should I hold back and not be given what's coming? Well, because I want to keep as much, and if I try to find a way not to give them, wait a second, what is right is what would you like if you were on the other end? I'm getting something. Why should I preclude those from getting it too? See the idea? I have to close the circle. But then, we want to hold as much, as possible. In that case, I rather not have any employees if I can't take care of them. But that means you have to work. Yes, I have to work. And if I'm I better be sure to compensate, because I'm getting. Nature doesn't work that way. Nature doesn't work that way. It's completely going against nature. The nature of yourself, because this sense in you that you would like others to respect you, you like others to give you, to be fair with you, and all that. So give some value, some respect, and the other way, because that's the way nature works. Is that right? If you don't water a plant, the plant will not grow. So this mind is like that. It needs to be. So desires need to be understood that the only purpose that they have is to find a way that there will be no desires. And there is no way that by fulfilling desires, listen please, desirelessness will come. It is proven that the more desire we fulfill, the more desires crop up. Is that right? But if we want to be free from desires, which seems to be an impossibility, we will never become free from desires unless we go to the source. What is the source? Why is there desires? Because of ignorance. I will never satisfy my desires. So the yo-yo will continue for a long time. If I'm going to then live a life, I'm going to try to live a life in which I will reduce the amount of desires. to the best level, a manageable level. Okay, the manageable level, in other words, I start thinking through things. Then if there's less desire, egocentric desire, there will be less desire prompted actions. Is that right? Now, and what will that be? That will create an environment, inner environment, in which this knowledge, which is the only thing, the knowledge of your fullness, the recognition, it's a cognitive situation, will just become evident to you. But the mind is to create we need to create a mind that is relatively free from desire, but we got to think through what we want and to see how desires are born. And to also recognize that never will the mind be free from desires until self-knowledge comes. Therefore, the yo-yo needs to stop, and nobody can stop it for me, even if I win, even if I become the ruler of the world, and then I become the ruler of heaven, and I become the ruler of the whole universe, desires will continue to come. Even if I die, even if I die, based upon certain theories, when the person dies, here's the earth, here's the person full of desires in the face of the earth, then the person drops the body, but then there's a jiva, there's a dehi, someone that indweller of the body, which is called the mindful equipment, along with the causal body, and that one, you know what, if it is full of desires, this karma kami, you know what happens to that guy? You know what happens? According to this theory, he stays floating upon the surface of the earth, wishing away, wanting to fulfill those desires. He doesn't have a body anymore. He doesn't have a taste to taste. He doesn't have eyes to see so much. But it is full of desires. It's a packet of desires that's floating around the surface of the earth. Okay? And then he's looking for a fool somewhere that becomes drunk or becomes very angry and then takes on and tries to enter into that body in order to be able to satisfy a little bit for a second or for a few minutes when the person loses his control. So it becomes like a wandering spirit in the lower levels and the shadows of the earth. Okay, if the person has less desires, then it's a little higher. It's a better perspective. But still is suffering, wanting to have a body again. Why? Because there's so many things that he didn't accomplish. And then he goes into a higher and higher. But still, eventually, the desires, even for goodness, will bring him back. And nobody can break, even God himself cannot break that cycle. This is samsara, birth and death. You know who can break it? The jiva that says, once and for all, I'm going to get rid of it. How? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not an empty being. I need to recognize that. Or at least live in life, without conviction until it becomes fulfilled. But you know what? The moment the person starts taking that particular decision, because it's a decisive thing, at that moment the person starts freeing himself or herself from desires. I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. And I trust that. And then things that it is a wonder that I'm able to fulfill the things that I fulfill. It is because of His grace. He guides me. I am His instrument. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is sorrow, let me bring cheer. Where there is ignorance, may I bring knowledge. This is a matter of actually asserting the truth of who I am. This is why the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi is so important. And it's not just for Christians. It's a universal prayer that, that we need to, because I know that it's better to give than to receive. And that make me an instrument of your peace. But for that, I need to be worthy, in other words, fit for that. Then the mind becomes what? Shanti. because of that faith. That's what gives power to the powerless. When you have a guy like Mahatma Gandhi, and guys like that, my God, they became giants. Not because of their size, but because of their heart, their attitude. They actually believe that. Whether they discovered the self or not, that's a different thing, but they convinced that there was nothing missing, that there was nothing impossible. Like that. So each individual individually, you cannot do it for your wife, you cannot do it for your husband. Everyone has to take their own thing and take the bull by the horns, and have the courage to face one's reality. And if the mind is going south, which is contrary to nature in terms of desires, come on. I had to face the music. Anyway, so that was. This says, for the ocean, the small waves are its smiles, and the huge breakers are its roaring laughter. If it is not roaring with laughter or smiling, is the ocean gone? No, it is tranquil in its fullness. And then he says, the other person mentioned in this verse is kama kami is one who has desires. This is not to say that he or she has a desire for desires. No one wants to have a desire for desires. But this person definitely has desires for desirable objects. Into this person's mind also sense objects enter, the world enters. When the desirable enters, there is elation, and when the undesirable enters, there is depression. In this way, the emotions of the person go up and down like a yo-yo. I'm going to read the next one. If a wise person can be likened to an ocean, the other wise can certainly be likened to a miserable pond that we just saw in the example. When the rains come, there will be water. Provided there is not too much water or too little, the pond will remain. But if it is flooded or all this water dries up, the pond is gone. Similarly, for one who has binding desires, the entry and non-entry of desirable and undesirable objects bring about changes, which is not the case for the wise person. This verse then gave Arjuna some hope. The previous verse was a real description of a wise person in the sense that it takes wisdom for you to be wise. Therefore, you had better gain this wisdom. This was then followed by the illustration in the present verse, which likened the wise person to an ocean. Let all the desirable and undesirable objects enter, like so much water into the ocean. The wise person remains full, and the kama-kami does not. So he closes it down with bringing back the example. It's a nice. I think that's a nice example. Krishna was telling Arjuna here that the one who is binding desires will always have problems, and that by this illustration Arjuna would know what a wise man is like. Having said this, Krishna then summed up the section on the Strita Prajna as well as the entire chapter in the next 2 verses. Alright? So please put your mark there. We'll see that next week, God willing. So therefore you had better gain this wisdom, he says. Might as well. Verse 71 is next. Swamiji is going to speak more, because Lord Krishna is actually bringing it up, about binding desires. Because there's binding and there's non-binding desires. And we need to distinguish those, so that movements that make me dizzy, I need to check them out. Okay? and then I need to take away the power. I need to take away the power. How do I take away the power? By looking at it. And then doing something about it. The horse example, I think I mentioned the horse example when I was younger. There was this horse that at one time, was going to this path, and there was a fence right here, and there was this road. And then this horse, at one time there was an old mattress there. And one time when he was born, a snake, came out of the mattress, underneath the brush in the mattress. So the horse stopped, and became scared. So from there onwards, the horse wouldn't go through there. Whenever he went like that, you were galloping on it, you pull the thing, it would just go to the house, to go around it. He would always stop. Now, think of the horse as a mind. You know what? The way to take care of that thing? Get out of the horse. Caress him. Tell him there's no problem. What's the problem? There's no snake anymore. It was only once. It is all here in your heart. And then you go and walk the path and let the horse see that there's nothing there. And then little, bring it in. Don't force them. Just bring it in little by little, but you need to face it. When we come up tight, or tight as they say. Hey, what is this? You are this Saktam Yanamanantam Brahman. What is this thing here? Bring the knowledge forth. And then help the mind go through it. And make an exercise which contradicts what? The stress. By doing this stress thing. The mind says, no. Say, yes, come on. But gently, bring it in. And you know what? You don't force a horse to take all the steps at once. You take it gently, little by little. And then you give it a little carrot or a little apple and make it go one more step, go towards the thing. But you need to recognize that is a problem. This mind is stuck. I need to help it out. But I have to bring out the knowledge that there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with the world. The world is reacting the way it's supposed to. And you know what? Ere long, this horse was able to cross. Even though the beginning was going like this. Horses. But you just did it enough times. And eventually, you forgot. As a matter of fact, it aligned itself to the reality there was no snake. It happened once maybe. Because it didn't, it was a fact maybe at that time. Or maybe he thought there was heard a noise. So this mind also needs to be helped. And nobody can help it except yourself. But for that, you need to detach from the mind and have the courage to look at it and know what is becoming uptight. All right. This horse example is something else. Yeah. Okay, it's almost like the Pepito example.